All right. Welcome into another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. We got a heck of an episode for you guys today. We're going to be doing our first session of Making It Rain. So Kyle will be joining us today. We're going to be talking about around the Pacific, the shakeups within the division, talking Kings, mixing up the middle six, getting in the chat here, talking goalies in between the pipes. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, and let's go. All right. Chat is ready to go. Al Smith, let's go. I know we were 30 seconds late. I apologize. Trapper9 coming in here. I'm ready. Arby, what is up? Skankmaster going, what is going on? It's time to talk some LA Kings hockey. Go Kings, go. Leave, let's go. Leave, thank you for helping us out here. Drop some likes, boys and girls. Appreciate that. Every single like, every single comment in the chat helps the algorithms draw more people to our channel. More Kings fans getting started out here, packing those arenas. Trapper just wants to say, hey, guys, he was ready, and now he's saying, hey, guys, what's up, Trap? And yes, Vishan coming in here with a drawn out yes. I'm ready to go too. So, we got a little last minute. Let's go. But we missed last week, boys. Just couldn't figure out the scheduling, so we got extra King stuff. But it kind of worked out because we had a big move, a shift in the lines. We'll get to that later on in the chat. But more importantly, how are you fellas doing after a week off?
Doing pretty good. Feeling pretty good. And I think this 4-day break from watching Kings games, it's a little tough to kind of get through, but we're almost there. We're almost at the end. Game tomorrow night, and we'll be rolling again. How you feeling, Joe?
Feeling fantastic. The Toffees representing again. Another win. Guys, I might not have to scroll in the app to find them in the standings too much longer, or the table as they call it in the Premier League. So
we're talking about Everton, right? They're your Premier League, and nobody knows what the Toffees are. Is that what
they will by the end of the season, because if they watch this podcast, they will know. The Toffees, Everton, same thing. The boys are buzzing right now. Big win on the road. Love it. Keep it going. That's right, Arby.
We need something to kind of make up for our football fanship, right? Like you're a Giants fan. Yeah. I'm a Charger fan.
Randy's I was pretty good with that shellacking. Yeah, I was doing pretty good with that shellacking.
He's doing pretty good.
Getting Chase Young coming in there, setting the table, get to go pair with a little bear there. So enjoying that there. But it's been good. Sometimes you need a little break. Not that I don't love watching hockey, but you get a back-to-back, you get a day off in another game, and then you got real life going on. Sometimes you can't stay up and watch the games, and I like to really sit down and enjoy it. So I'm excited for tomorrow to be able to just sit down. It'll be my day off, get some stuff going, cook a nice dinner, have a little one-on-one with the LA Kings hockey game tomorrow. It should be good. So, but let's get started in here with our first inaugural Making It Rain for this season. So let me throw this banner up here, and let me throw our boy Kyle Garcia. Welcome into the chat. Everybody welcome in Kyle here. Yeah. Awesome. Kyle. Guys, calm down, all right? Calm down. It's just Mr. Garcia. But welcome in, buddy. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanksgiving's coming up, so I have a week off from school, and then right after that's finals, but enjoying this rain coverage and attending some of the Kings games in the press box. Unfortunately, they can't win when I'm in there. Maybe the streak will end sooner or later. Like I was telling Russ on Saturday, it's like we got some bad luck when I'm in there, but hopefully it turns around soon.
There we go.
Hey, you're not the only one, buddy. It's everybody that's in there right now.
Yeah. Just have the team stay at a hotel during home games at this point. Why not?
Seriously.
We're getting there.
All right. So, Kyle, obviously, with the Kings coverage, you've been our resident expert going with the rain there, going to a lot of the practice, a lot of games. Let's start with the main storylines, because it's been full month into the season, or a month and a half. So we will. What are the major storylines coming in with the rain? Where do you want to take this here?
Well, I would say the first thing with this team so far is it's kind of reminded me a lot like early on last season, where they lose the first 2 games and they win 5, and then they lose 3, and now they've won, I believe it's 2 straight now. They haven't played since Sunday. So it's been a lot of up and down, and Yeah, it's just been a lot like last season, but I will say the depth has been better than it was last year. Right now, Jacob Doty has 4 goals. He has more goals than fights actually this season, 4-3. But it's been pretty much it. Depth prevailing, little up and down. The consistency's been a little bit of an issue, but I guess you can expect that for a team that's more focusing on developing prospects, which is what the AHL is basically.
True.
So right now, in case people haven't been paying attention, in the Pacific Division, Ontario Reign are 4th. So games played is 12. They got 15 points. They're behind Calgary, Abbotsford, and Henderson. Now, storyline starting slow. Does that have anything to do with some of the stars? You know, we got influx of Brant Clark. We got influx of Turcotte being 100% healthy. We got a new goal. There's a lot of players, a lot of mixed match. Fagemo left and came back. What do you attribute to the slow start, and what do you think the Kings can do to maybe kind of get more consistent as the season goes along?
I will say the slow starts of the inconsistency is probably with, especially on the back end. I mean, the first game I was in the press box for opening night. Marco Sturm hinted in his post-game press conference that they're not playing as a unit as he would like. And I mean, the only returner from the back end from last season to this season was Jacob Moverari. You have Brant Clark and then Kim Noisiainen, but he didn't play much last year. He hasn't played much this year. Then you have Joe Hicketts, Kevin Connaughton on the back end, and Steven Stantini as well to round it out, and including Wyatt Wiley, who's played a couple of games. So, you know, the back end as well. Then you got 2 new goalies. Villalta's moved on with the Arizona Coyotes organization. Cal Peterson's moved on with the Philadelphia Flyers. And so you have Portillo, who's played 4 of the 12 games when Riddick's taken 8 of the 12. So it's been pretty much mostly the defensive side that's kind of taken the hit. Offensively, the most important thing, you mentioned Turcotte healthy. I think that's the most important part. Him just being healthy and playing games at this point is a really big factor in his development, because when he's played, he's actually produced points. Maybe not a point per game player in the previous seasons, but the most important thing for him is just staying healthy at this point.
What have you seen? You mentioned a couple of the starts and some slower starts. A couple of names in particular I think Kings fans were pretty excited about after preseason. We saw Akil Thomas have a pretty good camp in LA. Francisco Pinelli opened a lot of eyes in camp. They appear to be off to slow starts, at least production-wise, at the start of the season. What have you seen from those guys, Thomas and Pinelli specifically?
Well, I'll start with Akil first. I'm a big fan of Akil Thomas. I think he can be a decent third-line player that can play wing and center. Use him on the power play, especially in that bumper position that the Reign have had him use when he's healthy the last few years. And he's also played the penalty kill, but just for some reason, I'm not sure what it is. He just hasn't looked as engaged as I liked. He finally got off the schneid last week, Friday, when he scored his first goal of the season. It was batted out of midair off of Alex Turcotte shot. But I'd like to see him more engaged. He's improving that a little bit. So especially from a veteran, that's kind of a little disappointing from my expectations of him, because I would think that he's trying to fight for that roster spot, and putting up these kind of numbers isn't going to really help his case. Now, getting to Pinelli, I was talking with Russ about this on Saturday. It's a pretty interesting one because he's only gotten 2 points, but I really, really like his game. He's a good two-way center. Right now, I think the Reign have him playing at the wing position because Samuel Hellenius is currently occupying that fourth line center, and they're just sheltering him right now. Nothing big, kind of like what they did with Chromiak, but it's what you see from a lot of players in juniors and juniors and college, is that you're playing against guys your age. You're playing against teenagers, guys that are like 18, 20 years old. Whereas we come to the AHL, you realize that this league is a lot more harder. It's a lot more physical. It's a lot more faster. You're playing against grown men who are trying to put something on their name that to stay alive, fighting for an NHL spot, and even in the AHL as well. So, even Marco Sturm hinted that they did that with Chromiak last year, that, you have to get stronger. He has to, get a little bit faster. The game I was telling Russ is that the plays you make, maybe overseas or college or juniors, you can be late on it with your decision making. You can get away with it. Whereas in the AHL, there's more structure involved where you're not going to get away with those plays and you have to learn from it. So they had him as a healthy scratch on Sunday, but I wouldn't be too concerned. It's just something that a lot of these players from juniors or college have to go through the hurdle.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, Pinelli, everything we've seen so far coming up, he's looked pretty good. So, young player just getting his acclimated. But another young player that's just getting his feet wet in the pro game is Eric Portillo. And of course, Holden 92 here asked the same question: how has Portillo looked? So you have the guy coming straight from University of Michigan, of course, with the Kings' depth at goaltending, big question mark for the future. Eric Portillo's got kind of a spotlight on him. So how's he look so far?
Yeah, I mean, when you're faced as the next future goalie replacing the shoes that Jonathan Quick left, that's going to be a tough one to fill. But he's only played 4 games this year out of the 12. It's kind of similar to what Marco Sturm did before the Cal Pearson situation, where he had Copley mostly starting and Villalta take a few starts to spare him. He's looked solid. He's looked okay. He's really, really big, 6'6", covers a lot of the nets. But one thing I do notice in his game is that he does have rebound control issues where he'll give up a big rebound or lose sight of it, and he has to make a sprawling acrobatic save where he shouldn't have to. And I was telling Russ and Andrew Knoll at the game on Saturday that he just loves to play the puck, and he gave me a little bit of a laugh twice. One of them was he got a delay of game penalty for playing the puck outside the trapezoid, which late in the game. Luckily, it did not affect the Reign. They were up. They had a 2-goal lead with a minute left. Yeah, it's very rare. And the last one was Friday where there was a delay penalty. He was going to go off the ice, but the puck was coming his way outside the trapezoid. But unfortunately, it was not near the bench. The extra attacker came on. He went to go play the puck and got a 2-minute man on the ice penalty. So he's just developing. Loves to play the puck. Is just got to clean up that rebound control. But I think that will improve as he goes along. I think right now in 4 games, he's got a 2.76 goals against average and a 904 save percentage. So right around as I expected. Not killing it, but not absolutely doing bad either. He's doing what I kind of expected.
Kind of piggybacking off that, we'll stay in goal. A lot of talk, a lot of chatter in Los Angeles, obviously, with sticking with the goaltending. Copley's had a bit of a rough start. Is there reason to bring up big save Dave Rittich? How has he looked so far? I know he's had the bulk of the action in Ontario. Do you think that with Copley's play, do you think Rittich has earned a spot? You know what, maybe he should be called up, or is it still a little early for that?
I think it's way too early for that. Riddick's numbers aren't better than Copley. I mean, not Copley. He's not better than Portillo at the moment. He's got a 2.79 goals against and a 906 save percentage. So he's been right around average as well. What I was telling Russ Saturday as well is that let's just say if the Kings were to do what they did with Cal Peterson last season, they were to put Copley on waivers. A 1.5, in my opinion, I could be wrong on this, and feel free to chime in if you guys want to. A $1.5 million cap hit isn't that much. Let's say if someone claims him and Riddick is called up, Eric Portillo is the only other goaltender with an NHL contract on the roster. And I think that would be a complete disaster for the Kings. I think just keep Riddick in the AHL right now, maybe have Copley try and find his game. Now, will that leash be short? Will remain to be seen, but I don't think there's any reason to call up David Riddick right now to the NHL.
Yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, I remember when we had this conversation. Right now, obviously, not a lot of people are kind of happy with Phoenix Copley and his performance so far, to say the least. And yeah, rightly so, right? But like you mentioned, that 1.5, there's a lot of teams out there desperate for goaltenders, right? So not to say that Phoenix Copley is the cream of the crop, but he's shown that he can come in and help teams out that might need it. I just think it's a risk is all I'll say, right? Right now, it's a risk. It's a big risk because, like you just mentioned, if you potentially lose him to waivers, I mean, Rittich is the only one available that has NHL experience, and he would most likely be the backup. And then, what if say something happens, and all of a sudden Portillo's next in line? So that's not to say that I don't see Copley going on waivers and Rittich coming up later, because I could see it happening, especially if Copley keeps going down this hill. But right now, I think you just kind of just status quo right now, right?
Yeah, right now, and I think anything can happen at a certain point. I mean, nobody expected Cal Pearson to go on waivers at the end of November. So if Copley keeps it up, maybe it might force Rob Blake's hand to do something sooner rather than later.
I mean, I don't think I'm with you here with Green. I don't think anybody's going to claim a 781 goalie right now, no matter how cheap his cap is. And even then, there's got to be an electrician that can get over 800 in LA as an e-bug or something that we can sign. But I jest there. Yeah, it's interesting. You look at Kyle that both the stats for both goalies, like you said, right within fraction of both save percentage and goals against average. Does this seem to think that there would be an uptick in Portillo's usage, or does that just seem that Marco Sturm is going to ride the veteran because that's just kind of his MO?
I think he's just going to ride the veteran. That's kind of his MO. He did it before the Cal Peterson situation. I don't think it's going to change. I think he's just going to stick with it. But I do expect Portillo to get some starts. I was hoping more like maybe a 55-45 split at least. But right now it's been kind of like 67-33% split.
I think the positive spin on this is it can't get worse. Copley's got a 781. And again, we like hashtag goalies would we really be surprised if all of a sudden he rattled off a couple of decent games in a row? No, I mean, I don't know. I know that it's not good right now. And if this continues, you cannot have somebody who's actively hurting the team. We saw this last season, and that's what led to Quick and Peterson both being on the outs, is you had two goalies that were just actively hurting the team. So at least right now it's only one, and they can maybe minimize that. But if the Kings will be best suited if Copley can find his game. I agree, Kyle. I think it's a little early because for two reasons. One, they still need Copley for that organizational depth. And two, it's not as if Rittich is lighting the world on fire in the AHL. You mentioned his numbers. It's not as if we're talking about a guy who's pitched like 3 shutouts and is all over the place. I still think it's early. I think I agree. Copley's got to get better, but I think it's a little early on Rittich.
So speaking of recalls, Samuel Fagemo has made the lap around the earth by going to Nashville for a couple weeks and then coming back here, getting claimed by LA, gets a goal in his first game. What have you seen from the Swede? Has his energy still been there? Does it feel like he's back home? What have you heard from the organization within the locker room about his arrival back to Ontario?
Well, I wasn't at the game Sunday, but that's the only game that he played. But seeing his interview after the game on the Reign YouTube page is that he just looks excited to be back. I don't think his body left, but I don't think his heart ever left the organization. He's familiar with a lot of the players. He's familiar with the system. He did get a goal in his return, but it was funny. I just kind of laughed when I saw the news from Elliot Friedman that he got reclaimed by the Kings. Never in my wildest dreams did I think he was going to come back to LA or even get put on waivers twice. But, it gives the Kings some organizational depth at the forward position for any potential call-ups if they have any injuries, which we'll probably touch into in a bit later. But, he just looks happy to be back. And if he's happy to be back, then that's the best thing that's possible.
Okay, Kyle, this has been a topic of conversation on Twitter a bit. The leading scorer for the Ontario Reign. Can you tell us a little bit about him? Is it Hudon?
Hudon, Charles Hudon.
Charles Hudon. Can you tell us a little bit about him? Because I think in a team that has been filled with prospects galore for the last however many years now, we've seen some players that have been kind of AHL veterans come in. TJ Tynan comes to mind, and just
Martin Ferk.
Right, Martin Ferk, great, yeah. Martin Ferk's another one, and be great veteran players. Can you tell us a little bit about Hudon and what he brings to the team, and what he's done? This is off to a pretty good start so far.
Yeah. So one of the things I was looking to see what the Reign would do in the offseason was to add another veteran player with experience, because Elias Anderson was a free agent, and I had no expectations of him being back, and he was used on the power play a lot, top line player. So the Reign needed to fill that spot. Didn't know Hudon was a free agent at all. I didn't keep much track of the AHL free agents in the offseason as I should have. But he's filling that role nicely. He's not playing on the top line with TJ Tynan as I thought he would be. He's playing more on the second line lately with Mikhail Maltsev and Martin Chromiak. But, this guy, he's a 29-year-old forward, got experience, great locker room guy. I was at one of the training camps in September. He's seems like a good family man with his wife and kids. Just he's got a real cannon of a shot. I see someone's put it in the chat right there. He's got a cannon of a shot. He's very effective on the power play. The last game though, he did take a scary collision on the boards, and he tried coming back and just couldn't do it. He didn't return for the rest of the game. So we'll see how that goes forward for the Reign down the stretch this weekend when they play Calgary.
I think one thing that surprised me or caught me off guard with Hudon is he was on the Montreal Canadiens team with Phil Deneau when they went to the Stanley Cup final. So
yeah.
So there's kind of a chemistry, or not chemistry, but there's kind of a connection there with the Kings and Hudon. But it certainly feels like, I remember watching him during some of the preseason games, and he was just all over the place.
And they have him here for next season too. They have him here for next season. So he's going to be a guy that's going to stick around for a while.
Yeah, it just seemed like him and Tynan kind of just meshed really well together.
Yeah, he stood out in the preseason for sure.
So we're kind of beating around the bush here. We've mentioned Fagemo, we've mentioned Hudon. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Alex Turcotte, but I don't want to hurt Russ's feelings here, but your boy Laferriere has kind of his shine has kind of died from the preseason a little bit. A lot of fans are talking about where that is going to come in. Is it time for a call up? Should he go back to the AHL to get a little bit more seasoning? Is it just kind of a little slow spell for him? But all three of those names have been mentioned on Twitter, so I'd be remiss not to add Hudon within Fagemo and Turcotte. What have you seen from Turcotte first off, Kyle? And then we'll talk about whether the Kings can make that kind of switch. So let's start with Turcotte's game so far. Obviously a point per game player before this last week. He's right there in the top of the scoreboard for the Reign. Looks like he's 100% healthy, feels like he's 100% healthy. I've seen pictures that his mustache is about 65% healthy instead of 35. So is that the secret to his game, or is he just being Alex Turcotte?
I think he's just being Alex Turcotte. He hasn't changed much. He's still playing with that tenacity that he has where he plays a lot more bigger than he should. From just by looking at the games, he looks a little bit stronger than he did the last couple years. So I don't know if that's true or not, but just going by off the eye test that I have. But the most important part, like I mentioned earlier, is that he's just playing games. Like, he's not having any injuries right now. Hopefully it stays that way because they really need him to be healthy and develop. And that way they can get some value, making him why he was picked number 5th overall in 2019. But, 10 points, 12 games. My issue with Turcotte has never been production. When he's played, he's actually produced points, maybe not as a point per game player, but it's just been staying on the ice. I remember the 2021-2022 season, he got 2 concussions in a 3-month span, and then he had a knee injury last year. He missed about a month. But, he's healthy. He's tied for 3rd in points. And Mikhail Maltsev, even after the opening night, said that he likes playing with him because he can make plays. He's all over the ice causing turnovers. They have him on the power play, PK, 5-on-5, even late in games defending a lead. So it's just important. It's just great to see Alex Turcotte finally just play a handful of games with no stoppage in between. And that's the most important thing that I've taken away. And I don't care much about the points as much as I should, but it's just more staying healthy and then the points will just come because he's always shown that he can put up points in the AHL.
So I see a little thing here. We'll get to it. Everybody's talking about did they burn a year of Laferriere? There was no year to burn. So you can only burn a year. There's only a 3-year contract if you're 18 or 19 to have that slide. So because he signed the contract and was a UFA later on in his contract, there is no slide there for Alex Laferriere. So his contract would have started this year regardless, from what my understanding is. So
I think they signed him a 2-year deal last year. So he's at the end of that entry level, if I'm mistaken. Kyle, is that right, Kyle?
Who is Laferriere? I think he's got next year on it as well. So they burned off last season, the end of last season. It's this year, next year.
I'll pull it up here for sure. But yeah, I think you're right there.
Yeah, Cap Friendly should have it.
So because I think after 19, it's a 2-year, or after 20, it's a 2-year contract, I believe. So, but I'll pull that up. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of this, the call up potentially. We've all watched the Kings. So, Laferriere's game, I think we should start there with, do we think it's warrant of him being maybe sent down for a little space? And then we can talk about the players and maybe who do you think that can plug in the lineup. Joe, I'm going to hit you first there. Laferriere's game, we all loved it to start the season. What have you seen the last couple of weeks? And do you think it's warrant of a shutdown? Obviously, everybody go read his article because his article just talked about this, hockeyroyalty.com. Joe's a fantastic writer. But and explain to the people that weren't able to get to the website, shame on you. And we get going on this.
So what I've seen so far from LaFerriere, you look at the first handful of games, he was, everybody was just adoring everything that he was bringing to the table, and rightfully so. Look at the last 7 games, he's still shooting the puck. He leads the team in 5-on-5 Corsi 4 per 60. So he is still shooting the puck, or at least on ice. However, his high danger, his scoring chances, he's not getting to the areas where he needs to get to, which is a little interesting because you've got Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kevin Fiala, 2 of the leaders on the team in terms of slot passes. So for whatever reason, but again, I think this goes back to that line. Just something was off with that line. It got to a point where just something wasn't clicking. So, and as you mentioned, Randon, I allude to it in the article that I still think LaFerriere. So I think LaFerriere should stay. I do not think he should go down. My reason is this. First of all, you brought him and he made the team for a reason. He was doing enough right to make the team for a reason out of camp. If you send him down at the first sign of struggle, that's a poor message. You now have to let this player adjust. He's a young player. He started off hot. He played really well coming out of the gate. That's great. Of course, there's going to be an adjustment period here, right? This is his first time in the NHL. Teams are going to adjust to him. Teams are scouting him. Teams are scouting that line. They're going to learn how to play against him. You have to give him the opportunity. This is my opinion. I don't know. Maybe you don't have to. I say you have to. Give him the opportunity to adjust back. Figure out what he's got to do next to adjust to that. Because if the first move is at the sign of struggle, you're sending him to the AHL, I don't understand what that message is. So I actually don't agree right now. Maybe later in the season. I don't think it's right now. I proposed in the tweaking of the lines. I don't touch the first line. I didn't touch the fourth line in my piece. I do make a slight adjustment to the lines. I put Deneau. I think LaFerriere, keep him there. You put him with Deneau and you put him with Kevin Fiala. Something just wasn't clicking with Fiala and Dubois. Their numbers were, you look at their shot attempt per 60, their shot passes per 60, their shot contributions per 60. Fiala is down, down, down across the board. I'm not blaming Dubois. Just something wasn't meshing. And I just don't know that neither of them really were. It was almost if none of them were willing to kind of take the reins and control that line. So separate them. Let them see if they can control their own line. So what I would do is I'd put LaFerriere with Deneau, who's a known driver at 5-on-5, not afraid to drive play, and Fiala. Let Fiala be that rover, and then LaFerriere can be the more of a pure shooter on that line. I would put more with Dubois, and I think the speed and the north-south style of Moore can really help Dubois. And then I have a shooter in Arthur Kaliev on the right side. But to go back to your LaFerriere question, as I said, I don't think so. I think you got to give him some time to adjust through this. I know the line he's on right now, at least what we saw at last game and in practice with Dubois and Kaliev. I don't like the fit personally. I think it's a poor fit. We'll see. Maybe it works. I don't like it. I don't think it's a best case for really any of those three. I think it's really putting pretty much everything on Dubois' shoulder in terms of driving the line, which is not totally unreasonable. That's why he's here. But I think with 2 really still inexperienced guys, I don't love the fit on that line. I do think Turcotte. Why don't you, Randon? I feel like this was a trick question in a way.
Well,
yes,
I don't want to. I don't want
to. Where Joe's head's going.
Let's let Russ come in and answer something here.
Randon,
I got to defend my boy, right? I got to defend.
I know.
Like,
so your boy was Laffy. He's coming in here. Joe's saying that he should stay. Why don't you answer that question? And where do you think that his fit is in on this team?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think he should stay too. I mean, the whole thing and the hype, especially most of it coming from me, is I was just happy that he even just made the team. My expectations once he made the team, I'm not expecting Laffy to be a point per game player, let alone even a half a point per game player. That's not what he's here to be. It was just exciting just to see him be on the team. I don't think it's gotten to the point where LaFerriere his play is hurting the team at all. I think he's still pretty solid in terms of help this team win games. Can there be an upgrade there? Yeah, I think so. But we're talking about a player who's come out of college straight in the college ranks where you're playing maybe two games a week, maybe mostly on the weekends. And now you're playing in the NHL where you're traveling. You're playing back-to-backs. You're playing 3-4 games in a week. So that's an adjustment period for him. I don't think it's like I said, I don't think it's got to the point where you need to send LaFerriere down and just bring somebody up. I mean, who are you going to bring up? You're going to put Alex Turcotte in the wing position? It seems like this organization is really set on keeping Alex Turcotte in the center ice position. So you transition him to the wing. Yeah, that could work. But I don't know. I feel like if you're just going to do that, then all of a sudden you're giving Turcotte 9-10 minutes a game where he's getting 18-20 minutes plus playing for the Reign. I think LaFerriere should stay for right now for the time being. And maybe you will see if there's some adjustments that he can make with some new line mates. Hey, if he keeps going down this road where he's not maybe producing as much as you want to see or some people want to see, then sure, I'd be totally up for a change. But for right now, I think LaFerriere is just doing what he should be doing. I think he should be playing some good quality minutes, playing good two-way hockey. He's not putting the puck in the net, but he's still contributing here and there. So I'm happy with it.
So Kyle here, Trapper comes in here, but a point per month, is that when is the ripcord? The NHL is not a developmental league, especially with the Kings this time. They got to win hockey games. Right. They sat and allowed Byfield to develop all last season, and he moved all over the lineup. We're finally seeing him develop. Maybe this year isn't LaFerriere's year to show out on the Kings for a full 82 games. Where's the ripcord for you? How long else are you going to give him? And then let's start with putting in some guys that you would bring up instead.
Well, I mean, from the few games I've been in Todd's post-game pressers, he doesn't really name LaFerriere as a guy that he needs to see more from. He hasn't even mentioned his name. So he's not – I wouldn't say he's hurting the team. The whole line just wasn't playing pretty well, in my opinion. I mean, they're also winning hockey games at the moment. They just can't win them at home for some reason. But I say the extension core will be a little bit longer. There's no reason to send them down right now. I mean, like Russ hit on the head. You're playing 2 games a week, Fridays and Saturdays in Harvard, compared to like 3 games in 4 nights. It takes some adjustment period. A lot, like I mentioned earlier with Pinelli, a lot of these college players, they got to get used to not just the game. You got to get used to the traveling, the scheduling, the practices. Whereas you're not taking courses anymore. You're up like early in the weight room and all this other stuff. So there's no need to right now. I don't think there's a need to send them down. I mean, he's not actively hurting the team. I mean, yeah, he could play a little bit better, but he's not actively killing the team as we speak.
Yeah, again, I think part of his struggles was that line stopped clicking. There's something that was off with that line because it isn't just his numbers. It's been Dubois' numbers were down, his shot numbers, Fiala's numbers. I think I tweeted the other day, his shot contribution numbers are down across the board. It just needs a tweak. That doesn't mean they can't go back together. It doesn't mean it's going to work. It's early in the season. We're not even 15 games in. So it's okay to make tweaks to lines, especially when things aren't going well. But I just think the message is poor. If you're going to send him, if the whole point of bringing him into the roster was just to send him down at the first sign of trouble, then what was the point? Just start him in the AHL. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. You want to sell me on maybe him getting a game?
Then where's your ripcord?
Okay, so I want to give it another solid 10 games with in a new line, Now, the line that he's on now, again, I tweeted the other day, not the line that I would go with, because you've got 2 guys in theory, it's got potential to work with Kaliev and LaFerriere because both of those guys, they're shooters and they shoot first, and that's what they do is shoot, right? Neither of them, at least early on this season, have been much in the passing game. They're both in the bottom 5 in shot assists per 60. Neither of them are really playmakers to date. Dubois can be. Dubois is somebody that does both. He has the ability to be high shot attempts, high shot passes. He gets slot passes. So there's a potential here, but I think it's limited. I think it's limited to have these 2 on the flanks. It's not the line I would go with, but I want another solid 10 games at least for LaFerriere with a new line and a different line situation before I really am going to pull the trigger on sending him down. Could you sell me on sitting the kid in the press box? I don't know how often or what guys, maybe certain guys get things out of that. I don't know if I totally subscribe to that, but I keep going back to he made the team and you're going to send him down after a month because he had a not even a bad start. He had a great start. He's had a bad handful of games. I don't get it. I'm not.
It's been what 4 or 5 games that we're talking.
There was the road trip.
I think we got to show a little bit more.
The whole line
here.
The line seems to go sour on the road trip.
Exactly. It's not like the focus isn't on Laferriere's problems right now.
Yeah,
it's
line.
on Dubois and Fiala. Like those are the names that are coming up in terms of we need to get those two players going. We don't need to get Laferriere going. And it shouldn't be Laferriere that's driving play. It should be Dubois and Fiala.
But that's where the money's going.
Exactly.
That's why they're the focus, but doesn't mean that Laferriere can't play better or shouldn't play player or isn't even worthy of a lineup spot at the moment. You have 100%. Jad, who hasn't played one single game, I don't believe, to my knowledge. He's played one. Okay, so like, could you spell him? Like, could this be a goalie situation where like on the back half of a double you give Jad a start to let him acclimate to the double? I mean, I don't know how big that is because you play double doubles all the time, and especially when you're in college, your games are actually back to back every single week. So maybe that's not an issue. I don't know what it is, but like to say that, I guess I'm just a fan of playing devil's advocate. To say that it's like, okay, let's just wait and see. That's not a game plan for me. Like not to put any urgency on his game isn't a game plan for me because this season isn't a season to let him marinate. This season is to win hockey games. And if we're not doing that consistently, or if he's not helping in doing that consistently, then we need to move on.
Fair.
The biggest problem for Laferriere right now is the fourth line is playing so well. That's the biggest problem for him right now because he would fit in so well with Lizotte and Carl Grundstrom just right there on that line. I would love to see it. But the fact that Lewis, Lizotte, and Grundstrom are playing so well, McClellan doesn't want to break him up, and I totally don't blame him. You have a line that you can rely on that you can just throw out there, and you don't want to fix or you don't want to change anything. So that makes sense.
He even mentioned that Saturday that he wasn't going to touch it up either. He said that line's been money, and if a line is producing or playing well, you don't touch that, in my opinion.
Again, the game plan for me is not just necessarily sit and wait and do nothing. It's to tweak his line mates, give him a 10-game stretch here with some new line mates, and see what happens. I think that I agree, Randon. He can't sit here and do nothing all season unless he's showing progress. Like, remember, we've saw Byfield play on that top line without producing, but you're seeing signs. So perhaps if Laferriere starts to show some of those signs, but again, I just want to see it with a different line combination. We're going to see it with a different line combination. Like I said, repeatedly, not the one I would choose, but we'll see if it works. It might. But I think the assumption that, we'll just send Laferriere down and bring up Turcotte. What does that mean? How does that automatically make things better? Like, Turcotte doesn't exactly have a long run here. I would bring Turcotte up. I think he deserves to be up. Wouldn't be for Laferriere, in my opinion, but that's a story for a different day. I don't think you got to let him adjust out of this. You have to let him work through this. If after another 10 games or so, it's still he's really, really struggling and he can't find his game, then maybe the time is to send him down. I just don't think it's the first sign of trouble. I think that's a poor message.
And it does sound like, from what I heard from McClellan the other day, it sounds like there's a chance that Jared Anderson-Dolan actually could draw in tomorrow night. So we could see this change come right away. And that's just based off of Anderson-Dolan's play these last, he had 2 goals in the last game with Ontario, right, Kyle?
Right, 2 goals, and one of them being an empty netter, and the other one off a assist from David Riddick.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm with Joe here. Like, I'm not saying that he just needs to stay the whole season. Like, I totally understand there needs to be something there, but let's just give it a little bit longer here. That's all I'm asking. Just give me a little bit longer.
Maybe a game or 2 in the press box. Let him watch from above, kind of reset, take a step back. He's had a chance now to play a bunch of games. Now watch him from above, get a different feel for it. Maybe I know coaches like that. I think it just depends on the player. Some guys may like that and be able to get something out of it. Some may not. But I think it's worth the shot. I can buy that. I don't buy sending him down and inserting Turcotte into the lineup as a solution.
If the lines stay the way they are, I'd rather have Turcotte than Laferriere in that current line with PLD. I think he adds a different element. But
I see your logic. I see your logic there.
No, I'm just saying that's just that in that line specifically. I get that.
I can see that.
And the kid's got to do what he's got to do. He's obviously he made that team for a reason. That whole line was game bucksters. Right? We saw multiple games. I think 2 preseason games in a row where they combined for 9 total points between that entire line. So it's not like they haven't had connection. Sometimes you need to shake some things up. Yeah. Todd McClellan's not just going to leave it, cement there But he's not given many options because, as you guys allude to, the first line is playing well, the fourth line is playing well. So, Kyle, to wrap this all up here, I'd be remiss if we didn't have a Making It Rain without talking about Brandt Clarke, my boy. So what have you seen from the defenseman? I've seen goals. I've seen him make some young mistakes as far as the immaturity by a lot of people. I personally liked it. I like the cockiness, but other people are, saying that it's a little bit immature moments. What have you seen from him? How has he gelled with the locker room? And what can we look forward to?
I think he's just come just as advertised. So I was looking at it late last night. I don't know what made me do it. So I looked at rookie defenseman stats in the AHL. Brandt Clarke, it leads all rookie defensemen in the AHL in assists and points. And the Ducks have going off topic a little bit, the Ducks actually have Olin Zellweger, who's second behind them in points. So it's going to be a fun battle to watch those two go at it in a few years. But Brandt Clarke he's looked just as advertised offensively. Defensively, they have him paired with Jacob Moverari, which I like because Moverari can cover up for his mistakes that he makes, especially on the defensive side. But he looks confident with the puck. The first game against San Diego, he actually had 10 shots on goal that game. He was firing the puck left and right, especially in the third period. Sorry about that. Yeah, not Brandt Clarke. Marco Sturm actually after the game said that he wants to be that difference maker, that he was their best player that game. And if he wants to be the difference maker and he's showing it, then he's living up to the expectations that we all have been waiting for him to see. But I do like that cockiness that he has. It was the second game of the season against San Diego. He got hit from behind, had to go to the locker room, comes back out, scores a power play goal, and he's like motioning for the guy to come out of the penalty box right after. And that was the only game he actually he's taken a penalty this season. It was a 10-minute misconduct for one of the goals. He was doing too much of this with the official and some of the goals players, but he hasn't taken many unnecessary penalties. But there's a couple times where he's looked out of position in the defensive end. But as he's mentioned, that Jacob Moverari is there to cover for his mistakes, which it's a perfect pair because Moverari's got that veteran experience and Brandt Clarke's that rookie who's going to provide offense, and what you're going to get from Moverari on a nightly basis. And Brandt Clarke, he's doing just fine. Just leave him in the AHL right now, unless an injury happens. No need to rush it. Just let him keep developing.
That kind of combination kind of sounds like a Clarke paired with an 8-year contracted Mikey Anderson in the future. So
that'd be pretty good.
I like it there. Dowdy, is saying over my dead body from his home right now, but in the future is the future there. Well, Kyle, it's been a pleasure. Making It Rain has been duly missed on this podcast. The fans have been aching for your name to come out here and spread your wisdom. That is all Ontario. Please follow him on Twitter at was it HOF? No, HOF for Kopitar? Kopitar for HOF.
Kopitar for HOF, yeah. Yeah,
actually, I butcher it 3 times. It's Kopitar for HOF there.
All right.
Give him a like, give him a follow. On his Twitter feed. We're going to be having him on, every month and try to maybe a little bit sooner, more than that. But we definitely want to get you guys' rain news. Kyle, appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Kyle.
So we're going to kick it over. Kyle is one of our buddies, and we're going to kick it over to our next buddy here at Raycon. So THN is sponsored by Raycon here. Let me pull this up. Oh, wait, it fell. Difficulties here. So it may be too early to start decorating for the holidays, but it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. Why not take care of it right now before all the crowds are packed? Calendars make shopping a total nightmare, especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season before Black Friday. That's right, before Black Friday. You can shop Raycon products right now and save up to 50% because their early Black Friday sale is going on now. Now, you guys have heard me talk about Raycon once before, and I love them. I ended up trying to purchase a pair with this set discount, always in the gym working out, and I can never find earbuds that fit my ears while I'm doing these jumping jacks, lifting, and trying to get a good run in. The fitness earbuds are top notch. They're designed to keep you in the zone as you work out. The latest updates add multi-point connection. I got these big old ears here for this fat head, and they stay in my ears all the time. That's my biggest pet peeve when working out. They also have active noise cancellation, so you can just hear your tunes and nobody jabbing at you with the boosting of the same beloved design that fits right in your earlobes. So Raycon has made the name for themselves in the audio space with products like their everyday earbuds or the workout earbuds that I just talked about. Known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features like 32-hour battery life and perfect ear fit, all day wear, lasting comfort. And this past year, they have expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon Power Tech. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. That's fast. Their faucet filter filters water against your tap. So if not only you're going to electronics covered, your agua is covered as well. It's a must-have for ensuring your water you use to wash your face and brush your teeth is pure as possible. Raycon is known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium tech brands. It's no wonder that they've racked up thousands, tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. To get everyone in this holiday shopping spirit a bit early, Raycon is offering 20% off everything on their site with up to 50% off. So beat the crowd, save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on this Raycon early Black Friday sale. Hurry now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% of Raycon products. Buyraycon.com/THPN. If you didn't know, that was a ad read for some sweet electronics. Get yourself some of that right now. Let's move it over to the Pacific. Couple news. We did this last week and we went down the whole chart, but there have been some big bombs coming in here with the Pacific. First one is a team up north in Canada. The Oilers. Didn't know if you know this. Fired their head coach pretty early in the season. Edmonton's in the dumps. The only team that is worse than them is the Sharks. So big surprise here for me. I thought they would kind of ride it out, try to right the ship, but eventually you have to do something. And I guess firing the head coach was the big thing. Joe, what do you think of this move here? And was this a desperation move? Was this needed just because of where they are at? How do you feel about this?
No, it's a desperation move. I mean, it's something where, somebody kind of has to fall on the sword, I guess. I mean, it's hard to say, at least for the public data, that they were doing much wrong in terms of analytically, the way they were playing, the way they were controlling the games. I mean, it simply I say simply, again, there's more to it. There's almost always more to it, but they weren't getting saves and they weren't scoring goals. And those are kind of two pretty important things in the game of hockey. When you're not doing either of those, it's going to be really tough despite how much you're controlling games. So, they can change the coach all they want, but yeah, the Shankmaster puts they're down 2 with 60 minutes left. It's the same old story. Like this, and I don't say if it falls on the players either. Like they're generating chances. They're one of the better teams at generating chances. Again, they're one of the better teams at limiting high danger chances. So they're not doing too many things poorly. It's just when it comes to that final execution, the pucks aren't going in and the goalies aren't making the saves. I don't know how a new coach fixes that. I think this is more, I think there's a lot of questions around Ken Holland. I think this is much more on him than it is Jay Woodcroft. But I suspect Ken Holland wasn't going to fire himself. And for whatever reason, nobody decided to can him first. So that's where I'm at. I don't necessarily think this is on Woodcroft. I quote unquote get it because the team is where they were. So something's got to give. I don't know if it was the smart move, and I don't know because now what do you do if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't turn around? Now you're stuck because now what's next? So it'll be too little too late at that point. So I don't know. I think it was tough luck, desperation. I don't know what it does.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's funny because a lot of the metrics and a lot of just watching the Oilers play, it's like deja vu. It's like I'm watching the Kings from last year at the beginning of the year. They're playing really well overall. They're making those kind of dumb mistakes, just individual dumb mistakes that lead to goals on the other end, and they're not getting a save. And I don't know, maybe like you've seen some maybe different structures defensively or something like that. But I mean, all the metrics point to them still playing pretty well. Of course, McDavid isn't up playing McDavid level hockey, but I still think he can get there. But it's just like, it just makes me glad that the Kings didn't go that drastic to a point where they just felt like they had to fire McClellan. They made the goaltending change first, and I'm wondering, like, maybe if the Oilers should have kind of seen that road out first, because it was the goaltender, point blank. I mean, you kind of seen what Jack Campbell has done since he's gone to the AHL. They just weren't really getting much of a save. So why didn't they make a move there first and then maybe see if they wanted to make a coaching change? Because like Joe said, I mean, why isn't Ken Holland getting more of the blame than Jake Woodcroft is? I get it's easier to change a coach, and you never want to blame the players. It's the coach that always falls on the sword. But man, I mean, when you go into the season the way that the Oilers were built, I mean, I don't know how you can rely on Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner as for your full season. It just didn't make sense. I mean, especially with the way that sometimes the Oilers that play, they don't play that defensive style hockey game that we've seen in the past. I mean, we saw a little bit toward the end of the year last year, especially when they got Ekholm. But I mean, we haven't seen it really at all this year. They're still trying to score a lot more and try to outscore their opponent more than they are trying to play more defense. But at this point, I think it's just more Jay Woodcroft just falling on the sword.
I know he wasn't like lights out as he was towards the end of the season, but did anybody really have a qualms with Stuart Skinner on that team? Like, I mean, everybody say like, oh, Ken Holland should have known. Like it's like, to be honest with you, like if you would have pulled everybody that I've ever talked to about how much they were worried about the Kings goalie tending situation versus Edmonton, they would 100% said they were more worried about LA because of the way Skinner played the end of last year and this year. So obviously he's been abysmal. There's no way around that. Jack Campbell can't find anything right now, let alone his keys, let alone a puck. So is that really a GM's fault at that point, knowing that, hey, we rode this guy last year, he gave us half a season of quality goaltending. Do we really need to bring somebody in?
No, the issue isn't Skinner. The issue is not Skinner. Skinner's a young goalie. He finished in the Calder last year. We're seeing this with young goalies. Look what Devin Levi's doing, struggling. Look at Gustafsson in Minnesota, struggling mightily. The issue is not Skinner. Like, to expect him to just jump in and be the number one, I'm still bullish on him, and I expect him to turn it around at some point. I still think he's going to be an okay goalie. The issue is Jack Campbell. And you're right, Randon. Like, this offseason, what are you going to do? You got Campbell. He's locked up. The issue is, why did you sign that deal in the first place? That anybody not named Ken Holland saw this coming. That's on him. Full stop. This was not a difficult thing to forecast. Everybody forecasted this. It is a huge, huge mistake to do that, because the thing is, and everybody criticizes the Kings goaltenders, and I get it coming into the season, but what is it that we've talked about on this show? It's hashtag goalies, and part of that is what you pay goalies, okay? There's no risk on this Kings team virtually. It's their $1 million goalies, and if they struggle, that is the risk. But you'd rather have a goalie struggle at $1 million than a goalie struggle at $5 million, because at least the Kings can do other things with that money that they can't do. Edmonton can't do, because they got so much money tied up in a bad goaltender. They have a lot of money tied up in a bad goaltender, flat out. Jack Campbell has had spurts of competency, and that's it. I'm sorry, like, he's not a starting NHL goaltender. And the fact that they gave him that contract was insane to think that. And that is what screwed them. The fact that Stuart Skinner is a young goalie has had some ups and downs, that's going to happen with young players and young goalies especially. The issue was he put himself in this bind because of what he did with Campbell. And, listen, we talked about it with Rob Blake. Like, he bit the bullet and said, well, I had this bad contract. Screw it. I'm sending him down and putting him on waivers. And, he trades freaking quick. Like I talked about last year when the quick trade happened. That's what you want your GM to do. You want him to have a set of whatever to make a deal like that and to make a drastic deal like that. And Holland didn't do that. I mean, yes, he sent down Campbell, but I think it would have been better off that he tried, as Russ said, tried to find a way, easier said than done, especially at this point in November, to acquire a goaltender before you fire the coach, because the fact that your team isn't making saves is not Woodcroft's fault. It is your fault, Ken Holland.
Mm-hmm.
So the Edmonton
Oilers, they didn't have an insurance policy like their Phoenix Copley waiting on the back end. So Edmonton, they don't really have anybody besides Calvin Card.
Yeah. So Edmonton Oilers have a first, a second round pick. They don't have a third or a fourth. Obviously, it's going to take somebody to take a first or a second and probably some other things to get rid of Jack Campbell for them to actually make some moves in this situation. We'll see how aggressive Holland can be to turn this thing around. It's got to happen sooner rather than later. Because as we know, I put out that article we talked about on the pod. Come American Thanksgiving, 60% of those people making the playoffs are already in the playoff position. So it's going to be hard to make that push no matter how high scoring there is. And I think if the season ends this way and how terrible they are, Ken Holland doesn't have a job either at the end of next season. So let's switch over to the other terrible team in Alberta, which is Calgary. Zadorov, a lot of funny things up there. A lot of funny things up there saying, hey, we've been awful. I apologize to the fans. And now he's requesting a trade. Is there a market for this guy? And is his play this year warranted for a team to take a chance on him? Is this another situation of the Calgary not being able to find that magic? Because the stat man extraordinaire Joe has lost entire paychecks on analytics for this team, but they can't seem to win games. So, Russ, what do you think? Is there a market for Zadorov, or is this just blowing smoke and he's really just going to have to bite the bullet and stay in Calgary?
No, I mean, absolutely there's a market for Zadorov. Zadorov could probably, if the trade deadline was tomorrow, he'd probably be one of the more hottest commodities available, just based off his contract's not that high. I think it's like 3.5, especially when you get the trade deadline stuff. 3.5?
3.75.
So yeah, really, nothing mid-season. The weird thing about this is if you're Zadorov, just why didn't you just wait? I understand maybe he's just really impatient. The writing's on the wall. The Flames aren't going to probably make the playoffs. They're not going to win a Stanley Cup anytime soon. This team was more than likely going to trade all their UFAs to try to lock up some more future assets because they really don't have that many. Because for some godforsaken reason, they decided to trade for Jonathan Huberdeau instead of get some first-round picks or some young prospects for Matthew Tkachuk. So now you're at this point where you tried to go all in and try to win, and now you have these UFAs that you can trade for, which is fine. But now Zadorov is just said, hey, I don't even want to go through and wait. I just want to be traded right now. So you kind of handcuffed. If you're Craig Conroy, the GM of the Flames, you're handcuffed because now all the teams that are looking for Zadorov who don't really have the cap space, more than likely, because not a lot of teams have cap space. They're kind of in the same boat that the Kings are. They don't really have the cap space to even fit Zadorov's $3.75 million contract in right now. Later in trade deadline, sure. But at the moment, no, they don't. So now that trade price that Zadorov would probably got maybe a first-round pick and maybe a prospect tied to it at the trade deadline, that cost is going to come down a little bit more because teams aren't willing to shell out all that salary cap money to fit him in there. So I don't know. I think Zadorov is a great player. He's not a top defensive player, maybe even not even a top 4 defensive player. I think he could be a really strong bottom pair or middle left side defenseman for a contending Stanley Cup team, and I think that's where he'll end up going, whether it be Toronto or any of these other big markets that he's rumored to go to.
The worst thing for Zadorov is there's not a spot on the Kings, because if we've seen a coach in a situation turn barely mobile left shot defenseman into damn near all-stars, it's Todd McClellan and Trent Yanni. Look at what the left side of the D looks like with Gavrikov and Englund. These are guys that were not wanted by a lot of teams for probably pretty good reason, and they are just flourishing in Todd McClellan's system. So I think Zadorov would fit perfectly in Los Angeles, but there's obviously no room for him. So yes, he's a high commodity. There's a 28-year-old monster defenseman. He's what GMs covet. I don't think he's that good. No, Russ, I agree. I think he's a bottom pair D-man, but I think teams would pay more than that because of just he's big and he hits people and he's been around in the league for a bit. I don't know. I go back and forth. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Maybe we'll see what happens. I don't know when he actually gets traded. Conroy doesn't have to trade him right now. He can say what he wants. Doesn't have to trade him until he feels like it. And I also wonder that I think there could be teams that see themselves as so often players don't become available early in the season because teams are tight against it. Well, now a pretty big player could become available in a team's eyes. So maybe they'd be a little bit more willing to be aggressive early. I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. But I just get the sense that he got to his breaking point. He's been pretty vocally frustrated, this season. So I guess it just got to a point where he's had enough. I do enjoy his agent, with the tweet that he sent, calling him the best defenseman. I don't think he's top 5 on his own team, so I don't know what he's talking about. But yeah, he'll. Oh yeah, there's going to be a big market for Zadorov.
We'll see how that shakes out, but I think I am, and all Kings fans are loving it that Alberta is near the bottom of the standings.
They're on fire.
Real quick, I'll ask you guys if the trade deadline was tomorrow, and let's say that the team is still playing kind of like the defensive grouping for the Kings is still playing kind of the same the way they're playing now. Do you trade for Zadorov if you can fit him under the salary cap? Brandon, you first.
No, I think England offers something similar. He's playing, he's flourishing, and I kind of liked he's tactical with how he delivers what he got brought in to do, which is toughness, which is like the fighting. Like he seems to do it more often when the team needs it and rather just randomly. Also, he's not a target like Lemieux was, to the referees, where you're looking for a guy that has that kind of clinical rat mentality to him. And are we really getting that much more? I mean, Steven comes in here as Zadorov eats more minutes in England. But he would have to play higher up in the lineup to eat those minutes. Like he's not playing over Mikey Anderson. He's not playing over Gavrikov. Like, are we really going to improve that much? Now, like, you would have to move out England to get Zadorov. So does that limit what you would pay for him? Like it would lower the pick to where then Calgary can flip England somewhere else. I just think right now, if they're playing exactly how they're playing today, I don't think we make a move.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that caveat of assuming that England is going along the way he's going. Let's be clear. Nikita Zadorov is a significantly better player than Andreas Englund. Okay, yeah. Let's not get it twisted. But Andreas Englund is flourishing in this system, and that's all that matters right now. Okay, they're not playing in a vacuum, and they're not playing in a one-on-one out in the street. This is in a system that Andreas Englund is perfect for. Zadorov, point taken, would be perfect for this system as well. But if anything, I think he's too mobile for that left side, and Englund is just mobile enough, or just not mobile enough, to where he does exactly what he needs to do and exactly what the coaching staff wants him to do to play within the system. And so far, he's been far exceeded my expectation, just as Gavrikov did last year. I think, again, if you're in what's Ryan Graves? He's like 29 years old. He signed like a 97-year deal with Pittsburgh. When that deal's up, he should find wherever Todd McClellan is and just go play on his team, because he has turned these left shot defensemen into all-stars that are big, not that mobile. So it's fascinating what he's done, and it's made me look like an idiot a couple of times. But I think Zadorov's a better player, no question. But if England's playing like this, I don't know.
I totally agree with you guys, and I think Liebs pointed it out in the chat right here perfectly. He said I wouldn't, which is crazy because what we thought of England 15 days ago. And it's like 100% true. Like, if we had asked this question to us, like, would you trade for Zadorov at the beginning of the season? I think every Kings fan would have been like, yeah, let's do it. Like, having Zadorov as your third pair left side defenseman to begin the year, I think it would have been great. But the fact, like what Joe mentioned, the way that England has been playing, especially with him and Jordan Spence, it's like you want to see this ride out. You want to see what this can live up to, because that pair has been playing so well together.
Yep.
And now it's just like, okay, well, the Kings have found something here in this pairing with England and Spence. I just wonder, like that's why I'm kind of like I didn't want Zadorov to request this trade, or I don't want him to get traded until the deadline. I just want him to be that insurance policy, because let's say that it does fall off the rails with England.
Sure.
And now all of a sudden you have Zadorov available, because like Joe said, he would fit in perfectly for the Kings right now. But the fact that England's playing so well with Spence, you stay with how it is right now, and you see where they go.
Well, because you have to look at it's similar to Laferriere, but backwards. Because the first handful of games, England was not very good.
Yeah.
The last half of the last 7 games or so, he's been great, right? So we're still in this early stages of trying to figure out, and he's done a good job of adapting and learning the system, learning the team, playing with Jordan Spence, and it's going really, really well. So hopefully it continues. But let's not forget, this is a career journey. Maybe journeyman's unfair, but he's not an established NHL player, which is why I say like Todd McClellan should be these kids' godfathers for what he's done to their careers, getting them paid and giving them opportunities. Fantastic. It's fantastic.
All right. Let's switch over to our next sponsor here at DraftKings, which is at DraftKings. The Bet the Action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Tomorrow, there's a couple key bets there. You got Red Wings and Senators, Golden Knights, Canadians, Devils, Penguins. Got a lot of games going on tomorrow. Let's flip it down here to the LA Kings are plus 180 with a negative 1.5 goal differential there. Over under is at 6.5. So place your bets there for the game. Do a couple parlays with the games in the recaps there. But DraftKings always has you down for the best odds. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 in free bonus bets for just betting $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 160 hours after the issuance. So get gambling. Let's get on to the Kings here. So game recaps, what we're going to be doing. Kind of a little here. Kings get 7 points out of possible 10. Some ups, some downs. Huge win in Vegas or against Vegas. Kind of dropped the drawers there against Philadelphia. Even though I didn't think the team didn't play too bad. But some key shots went in for Philadelphia here. What was kind of the main thing was the mix up of the middle six. So let's start there. And obviously, separation of Fiala and PLD. How has that looked so far? Obviously, we've only seen one game really with it. Russ, what have you seen in practice and heard from the organization on what was needed here? We obviously heard Todd McClellan speak. Maybe you can start with that.
Yeah, it seems like the main focus for this change is to get PL Dubois and Kevin Fiala going. And it's no secret that those two have been, I don't want to say struggling, but it's weird because if you think about it, like the problem, it's like they have the same problems, but not really. It's hard to explain. But with Kevin Fiala, he's producing, right? He's getting points doing Kevin Fiala stuff. But then he has the other Kevin Fiala things that are happening with bad turnovers, poor maybe defensive play. So it's kind of a mixed bag with Fiala. With Dubois, he's not really producing, but he's not necessarily hurting the team either. You're just kind of hoping to see more. So it's like Kevin Fiala is noticeable in the wrong sense and in good senses, but it's more extreme. Where PL Dubois is just right in the middle. He's not really doing too much. So I get what McClellan is doing, where you just have to maybe separate them, try to figure something out. Maybe they can light something up. I just don't know if I agree with the actual lines that he's deploying out there. It's weird. Like Dano, Moore, and Fiala. We've seen it happen before. We saw it happen last year. It took a little bit for them to get going, but once they got going, their metrics were looking really good. But as far as Dubois with LaFerriere and Kaliev, I understand the reasoning behind that too, because McClellan mentioned the other day, you want to see when Dubois is at his best, you want to see him driving play. And with those two players on his wing, he can be the alpha with the two younger players there. But it's just, I don't know if those three players really mix. Like it's only, like Brandon said, it's only been one game. They never even practiced before that game even started. So now you get a couple practices in. You get the Florida Panthers coming in tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. But I get the mix-up. I just don't know if I like the pairings to start. But we'll see.
Totally get the mix-up. Totally don't get necessarily the duo that they're with. I mean, you mentioned, Russ, that they're kind of both doing some things well. Like it's not as if they're hurting the team. They're 2 and 3 in shot assists per 60. Kevin Fiala leads the team in slot passes. PL Dubois is 4th in slot passes. Like they're involved, but there's just, you could see something wasn't clicking. It just wasn't working. And the point I made in the article that I wrote about the lines that was, and you mentioned you use the word alpha for Dubois. I think there's a difference between alpha and being a line driver. Like you can drive the line, but you don't have to be the alpha per se. I just think you had two guys in Dubois and Fiala that just weren't meshing. There wasn't a click there. I really think you put somebody like a Trevor Moore next to PL. Because here's the thing. Let me go first to Fiala. I think he'll eventually figure it out with anybody. Like if you left him with Dubois long enough, he'll figure it out. Randon calls him an amoeba. He'll figure it out. I think he's going to be fine kind of wherever he goes. And we've seen him and Dano work in the past. They've got some pretty good metrics in a decent amount of time together. So I think that'll be fine, those two. Trevor Moore, when I picture him, I picture the way Dubois likes to skate. He comes with the puck. Oftentimes he's entering his zone through the middle of the ice. He's looking to make a play with the puck. I think when he made a dish to Fiala, Fiala was instantly like, all right, I'm going to figure out now what I want to do with the puck. He wasn't thinking shoot necessarily or pass. He was like, let's see what's going on. Let's see what opens up, and I'll figure it out from there. Where you get somebody like a little bit more direct with Trevor Moore, I think if he's able to dish to Trevor Moore with speed flying down the left wing, he's going to go to the net with it. And he's going to have a chance to get a puck on net. I think it's a little bit more direct, and I think that will help Dubois. And Trevor Moore, I mentioned the slot passes. He's third on the team in slot passes. So this is somebody else that isn't just a pure shooter. He's somebody that can also make plays and look to be creative. He's a puck hound, which is, again, I think he'd be a perfect fit next to PL Dubois. I, in the article, put the line of Kaliev next to them just because I figure – you've got a guy that's very north-south, a guy that wants to drive play kind of through the middle of the ice. Both guys are capable of being good playmakers, good passers, good in the shot assists, good in the slot passes. Arthur Kaliev needs to find his way to get to that spot to get open, and they can both find him. So I think that can work just fine. I don't love the fit with what I like about Moore is he has the ability to make plays as well. We haven't seen that from Kaliev, and we haven't seen that, in my opinion, yet from Laferriere. So I think it puts so much on Dubois, and you've got a guy that he now has to kind of do a little bit of literally everything. Like, I don't view Kaliev. I know he had a couple of shifts here and there with the Dano line about him being kind of like that puck hound. I don't know that still that's really his game. Right, he adapted a bit to fit with that line with Moore. I don't think that's him. I don't know yet. Laferriere, that could be there, but again, we haven't seen him be a contributor in terms of shot assists. Maybe it's because he was playing with both Dubois and Fiala, and they were kind of hogging him, if you will. So maybe that has a chance to open up. We're still learning more about his game, but I don't know. I don't love the fit. I would like to see Trevor Moore next to Dubois. I think Trevor Moore can really help open him up.
I would have just flipped the centers. That's what I would have done. Just so you have PLD with Moore and Kaliev, and you have Fiala, Dano, and Laugh. So I don't know if that's what you said in your article because I read.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it that way, but that's simple as that. Yes, okay. That's a less complicated way to say it.
I just think it's like, okay, you have a play driver in Moore. You have a PLD who can do a little bit of everything, and a guy that wants to shoot. Then you have the same thing on the next line. So we'll see how that works out. Sometimes, though, to Russ's point, you need the alpha to be the alpha. And I think this might not be what T-Mac is thinking, but it kind of just sparked my interest now that I just said that. Is this kind of a call to PLD to get his act together a little bit? Hey, we brought you in. We're paying you $8 million. Sometimes you just need to drive the line and be dominant. And I'm going to put you with two guys who are inexperienced. You're going to have to do that. You're not going to be able to fall behind another guy making $7 million. And let's see what you can do. Let's kind of put the pressure on him a little bit. Like you signed a contract here. You want to be here. You said you're going to work on your 200-foot game. You said you're here to win championships. Okay. Well, if I put you with two inexperienced players, can you drive that line and hold that line for 12, 15 minutes a game? Maybe this is a call for him. Maybe this is kind of a way for Todd McClellan to challenge Pierre-Luc Dubois, and this is not really where he envisions this whole, top 9 to go.
Yeah, I that's possible. Could be a way that he's challenging him. I want to make sure that we talk about this too in a different way. And I mentioned at the end of the article was the Kings have went pretty much the first 13 games of the season. I know because Kaliev was suspended, there's a little bit of tweaks in the start, but they haven't touched the lineup at all since Kaliev's gotten back. That is not the norm, right? Line tweaks, guys in and out of lineups. That's
not
much
even
more common.
mid-game, right? We didn't even see
Right. That's much more common than what we've seen from the Kings so far because their start was good. But just because the start's good doesn't mean you're not evaluating your team and your lines, and you can see, like we could see it. So McClellan sees it. It's not rocket science. There wasn't something clicking there, and eventually something had to give. So I'm okay with the switch. Again, I just don't agree with the exact switch that he's doing, but I think it makes a lot of sense for them to split them just to see how it works. And the thing is, nothing to say you can't go back. You can always just go back. You can do that. That happens. It's an 82 game season. You're not going to run with the same lines for 82 games. You're going to mix it up. You're going to try to find ways to see what works. Remember, Dubois is still a new player. You have LaFerriere, new player that McClellan is going to try to see, okay, who's going to fit? How are we going to fit with these guys? And really, he's just making a small tweak right now because luckily there isn't a need for a wholesale change. You don't have to touch the first line. I understand the logic in not touching the fourth line, right? Like they're going well. So that's fine. Make some tweaks to try to see if you can get a couple of your key guys going. Nothing wrong with this.
I think there's some people that are still looking to see more out of PL, and I'm myself included. I mean, we were big proponents of the trade. Not all of us, right? Everybody was looking to see more out of PL Dubois. I mean, we're big proponents of the trade, and I do the trade over again, 100%. You appreciate this, Joe. Is I actually got to meet Caro, part of one of the bannermen at the game the other day, and I don't know if you guys have ever listened to their podcast. They do great stuff. But they were actually pretty against the Dubois trade. They were questioning it. And so we had a good conversation about what we've seen from Dubois these last few games. And I told him that, like, I would be remiss if I had said, like, I didn't want to see more. Like, I do want to see more from Dubois. And I see that there's moments where people can get the perspective when watching Dubois where he gets that lazy kind of treatment or that tag to him. And it's like, you don't really necessarily see him maybe cycle down close and want the puck on his stick. He always kind of, if you watch him, it's like he's always waiting for the play to happen, and then eventually the puck gets to him. But when he has the puck, I mean, we've seen it. Like when the puck is on his stick, he looks incredible. He's just willing. He's a bull in the china shop. He'll drive straight to the net and try to make things happen. We've seen it like at least 3 times already this season. I just want him to play on the puck a little bit more. Like cycle down. Demand that puck from your defenseman and cycle down low, because there's been times where you just kind of see him floating a little bit toward the blue line, waiting for someone else, the defenseman, to get. And maybe that's the structure thing. But I don't know. I just want to see a little bit more of that play driving aspect from Dubois, saying, I'm going to demand this puck in our defensive zone. I'm going to skate it out and try to make a play myself, and then we'll see what happens from there. And it's kind of, maybe that's why him and Fiala just haven't really meshed that well, because that's kind of how Fiala plays, right? He's like kind of waiting for the play to happen, and then he's going to go out and try to make something happen in the offensive zone, twirl around, do his own thing. So I just think that there's something more that we need to see out of PL Dubois. I don't think he's been bad, like I mentioned. I don't think he's been great, but there's another thing. And like Todd's mentioned, I think he's not really beating him around the bush, but he's kind of saying, yeah, like we're waiting to see a little bit more out of Dubois, and we got these 2 younger guys playing with him. Maybe this helps him a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something interesting to see where we go with that. And I mean, that was going to be the next topic, but I guess that is the topic we've been talking about this whole time. I think it's interesting to see what we're seeing from them in that shakeup. Let me maybe throw it in a different direction. How has both Fiala and PL looked on the power play? And Trapper coming in here saying, am I the only one that's more excited for power play 2 unit? No, you're not the only one. I've been way more excited with how they've been playing. So how has Fiala and PLD been working on the power play? How has that kind of evolutioned over 10 games? Joe, I know you've been kind of keeping track of that as well.
I mean, I don't want to kind of beat this dead horse and say it's as simple as they miss Victor Arvidsson and they miss that righty. It's really, it just throws things off. And I don't think they've really figured out what has worked and what kind of, because when you have the setup that they had last year, you can get comfortable and you get used to making certain plays, right? Depending, you can make plays along the top, and depending, maybe a shot opens up from the top. Maybe you make those plays around the top. You can maybe make that cross seam pass. You can go down low for that one touch. All of a sudden, you mix in something a little bit different, and it's just again, sometimes that's all it takes. It's just a little off, and they're trying to figure out ways to make it work. They're trying to figure out different avenues to make these plays that's a little bit different, and they just haven't found it yet. I think it's possible that they could, but not having, this was something that we talked about. Not having a playmaking righty has become, maybe it's a bigger issue than I expected it to be. And I'm sure it's probably a little bit more than that. That's maybe a little too simplistic just to say it's all that. But I definitely think that that's a factor. I really do. We saw the preseason. I mean, I go back to a play that Arvidsson made in the preseason. Was a great play that set up Kempe on a power play goal. We saw how good the power play was last year with Velarde as a righty down low. They don't have a playmaking righty on the roster. It's just what it is. So they have to figure out a way. They almost have to like jumble up both units, really, if they really wanted to mess with it. And I think actually in practice they might actually be doing. Russ, you may be able to speak more to that if I might be wrong there. I thought I saw a tweet from somebody. They've been trying something different in practice, but I don't remember who I saw it from. But yeah, I think I don't really subscribe. I don't get more excited for one unit over the other at all. It's just I want that first unit to get better. I just don't think they've figured out yet. They're trying. You can see they're trying. Frustration. You can clearly see that they're trying to figure this out. And if you're going to say because the goals aren't going that they're not trying and they're not doing this, they're clearly trying things. Look at the movement without the puck. Look at the different avenues that these guys have gone. Guys are playing in different positions. They are clearly trying to figure out a way to make this work. It just hasn't fit yet. So I don't buy the fact that they haven't been trying to make this work or haven't adjusted properly or whatever. Like they're clearly trying to make it work. It just hasn't clicked. And maybe it won't. And maybe they do need to make a personnel adjustment. But I think that's where it's at right now, and I'm sure it's a frustrating time for some of these guys.
I think one thing we're seeing more is not necessarily that the power play unit, the second power play unit is you get more excited to see them, but I think Todd is giving them a little bit more ice time than he would at the start of the season. Usually it was just like, hey, whenever we get a power play, let's throw that first unit out there, and then we'll keep them out there for a minute 30, and then the second power play unit gets 30 seconds. And
which is the norm, by the way, in the NHL.
Yeah, which is normally what happens. Of course, you want to have your best players down there and the man advantage. But now, the way that the second unit is playing is there's times where you're seeing that second unit go out there before. And maybe sometimes it's just because they're tired. It is what it is, or that first unit's tired. But that second unit is definitely getting a little bit more time. And I think a lot of it has to do with the progression we're seeing out of Quentin Byfield. They're seeing a little bit more out of Byfield in terms of his play down low. I mean, just overall play. I think it's just been impressive. I mean, I love the showering of praise for Quentin Byfield just around hockey media has been outstanding, and I'm loving it. Like the NHL world has started to take notice, and they should because of how good he's been. But I think it's just a lot of it has to do with how he's played in that second unit overall, as opposed to they're outscoring the first unit a little bit more. So maybe there's a little bit more criticism on that first unit.
Sticking with the power play, like what would you recommend? I mean, what do you do? I think there's something that I don't know. What would you do? I have an idea, I guess, of a way that you could maybe mix it up. But if you're keeping, you have to change the personnel on that top unit somehow. You have to find a way to make the adjustment to either. The other option is to put a right-handed shot in the bumper. But the problem with that is the playmaker has to come from the right side. And who's on the right side? Your shooter, Adrian Kempe. You don't want to take that away from him. So, yeah, you could put a righty in the bumper, but again, like I don't think that's ideal because I think they want Kempe to be that one-time option from the left side, whether it's Fiala feeding in from the left circle, Kopitar, or what would have been a down low righty. With that kind of taken away in some fashion, I don't know that the righty in the bumper is really the answer. So I don't know. I think it's a tricky one. I don't know what you
just hold status quo on that first unit for the time being. Kind of like the same conversation with Laffy, just maybe give it 10 more games or so. I mean, a lot of the benefits that McClellan has is the record. They're 8-3
Yes.
and 3, so
Yep.
you have that leeway to kind of see how things go and let them figure it out before you have to make these drastic changes.
What we have uncovered, because I'm assuming Victor Arvidsson's done. Okay, I don't know. I know there's been reports, whatever. I think he's done. I'm just assuming this. I've obviously nothing or whatever. I hope he's not. I really hope he comes back. He'd be a perfect fit into this lineup, but I don't. I'm just assuming he's done. What the Kings are, what we're learning is what playmaking pass first right hand shot that can play the power play will be available at the trade deadline. Start the rumor mill, Russ. Let's get looking.
There's a lefty free agent American that's out there trying to court teams out. Does that help?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
You're not a Pat King
Mr.
fan?
Patrick Kane.
No.
I just thought, I mean, it's kind of like nostalgia. I think it would be really cool to see 88 Kane in a.
It would be cool. Sure. Be cool.
But there's no need. I'm not a proponent for it. I just.
No.
I just think they so the tweet that I saw for the power play was that they're having Doughty on the half wall and having Fiala at the point.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I saw the same. I don't remember now where that came from, though. Apologies for whoever it was, but
so maybe they're trying that to have a little bit more righty on that side, having 2 1-timers, being able to feed and rotate. But we've seen it. Obviously, they try to get Doughty back up top if he goes down and cycles down low. That's just kind of how it's been proponent. So, I don't know how that works out. And I know it scares everybody to death having Fiala up top with all the recent blunders leading to goals going the other direction. Especially since if a mistake does happen on a pass, then Fiala is supposed to be your guy that's stopping a 2-on-1. And I don't like those odds either. So is that really who you want up at the point? The only other guy that I could think that would be up there that would maybe work would be Kopitar because he is defensively sound. Does that help your team there? I don't really know. But they, like you said, Joe, they've been cycling. They've been doing a lot of things, trying to find avenues, trying to switch it out from a 1-3-1 to a diamond. They, box up. They're doing all kinds of stuff to try to make things work. Kempe, somebody said Kempe, I don't believe, has had any power play goals yet, holding 92. He was the empty net merchant for a while. He got a couple good goals there, 5-on-5. I think with the power play 2 unit, just feeding Arthur Kaliev and chaos, goals are coming from chaos off of that. There really doesn't seem to be an identity for the first power play unit
That's a good word for it. That's a good
to
word
where there's no process what you're trying to do. Every time Ovechkin steps on the ice, the puck is going to him, whether you like it or not. And you see Edmonton when they were at the top of their game, Draisaitl was that number one option on the power play. McDavid drew as many defenders to his side as possible, and then they tried to still get Draisaitl for that one time. So I don't know where the identity comes from. I don't know who establishes that or where they get that from, but it just seems like they're trying to play schoolyard football where you drop a play on somebody's shirt and everybody runs their own route. And that's kind of what it seems like what it is right now. And I don't know how they fix that or who is supposed to be doing that. So
the identity for the power play, the first power play unit specifically, is Adrian Kempe, his 1-timer. But the problem is that the entire NHL knows that's the identity of the power play. So now it's just about how do you adapt when that shot is taken away, because we're seeing teams account for Adrian Kempe now. So now it's like
the teams account for Draisaitl,
yeah,
for Ovechkin. Why can't we fix that?
I think the identity was more than that though last year too. I mean, because remember they used that bumper quite a bit. Gabe Vilardi was instrumental on the power play. Fiala was good on the power play. I think, yeah, they're probably maybe what you're getting at, Russ, is their main look was, and they want it to be Kempe. But last year they had options. If Kempe was away, they knew exactly where they were going because they had it all orchestrated. Every play they had was all set. Now it's different. So if Kempe's that play's gone, they haven't figured out what plan B is, and kind of plan B and plan C. They haven't figured out what that alternative is yet. So I think that's something that either it's going to have to come, or we're going to have to see a change.
So let me ask this, because last year it was the team was firing on all cylinders on the power play, and a lot of our goals came from special teams. Now this year we're scoring way more on 5-on-5. Is there a version of the team that you prefer? Do you prefer to have the goals coming from special team looks, or do you prefer a more consistent team 5-on-5 and you kind of deal with the dip that we're having right now?
Oh man, I sign up for the way that the Kings are playing 100%. If you give me a quality 5-on-5 play, a good penalty kill, I don't care less if you're not really scoring that much on the power play. Like if they're running, I think they're running like a 70% clip on the power play and like 87%. They're like fourth in penalty kill. Totally fine with that. It was the last few years where it was the power play was doing okay, but the penalty kill was just killing this team. I mean, that's what killed the team in the playoffs, right? It was just the penalty kill couldn't stop the Edmonton Oilers in the power play. That was the problem. And yeah, a lot of it has to do with the Edmonton Oilers being the Oilers, but when you can't kill a power play, you're kind of trading back and forth. And that was what the Kings were doing last year. You're not going to win a lot of playoff series doing that. So penalty kill is doing good. I'm happier with special teams than probably what I was last year.
Yeah, and I think the power play's got to click at a better percentage. To your question, Randon, I mean, I tend to, I'm a big believer. This is why a lot of the stuff that I look at and track with like the shot assist and stuff, it's only 5-on-5 because that's where the vast majority of the game is played at 5-on-5. And I think if you're doing things right at 5-on-5, special teams can be a little bit more volatile. So yeah, I trust the 5-on-5 more, but there's way too much talent, in my opinion, for this power play to be sub 20%. So yeah, it doesn't have to be top 5 again, but it should be upper half of the league. And I think that's what makes you a team that is, where the Kings are. What are they, third in the division right now? Where if your power play was clicking, you might be first in the division. And that makes a difference in home ice and playoffs. That may make a difference in winning a playoff round. So yes, I prefer this the way it is if I had to choose, but the teams that can do a little bit of everything are generally the ones that are going to go the farthest.
Let's flip it over here to, I know we briefly touched on it with the call-up of potentially of Riddick with Kyle. Thank you again for Kyle for coming on here on Making It Rain. Let's go into the crease here. The downtrodden of play of Copley has made Talbot play more games than what we were comfortable with to start the season. We both were wanting that 50-50 split, both goalies to earn that. Doesn't look like that's going that way right now. Most time you have to get out of a slump by playing more. Copley hasn't earned that. So where do you see the goalie situation? How much more of an uptick are you comfortable with Cam Talbot for this team, and where do you think like the next 10 games go?
I think, oh man, I mean, I still want to see Copley get a little bit more games here these next few. It's weird, the schedule that's set up for the Kings is there's a lot more breaks involved in some games. I think they play 3 games and then they have another 3-day break.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what the split will be. I'd like to see Copley get one of these next 3 games. You have the Panthers at home, you have the Blues at home, then you're in Arizona. I don't know which one. Maybe Copley gets the Saturday start, but yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried about Talbot's playing right now in terms of the amount of starts he's getting, not the quality of his play, but just the sheer amount of starts he's playing. So it's just like you just hope he can eventually keep it together for the whole season, because if not, then the Kings are kind of stuck at that point. So you have to keep riding Copley. That's the thing. It's like you're not gonna just go away from him altogether. You're gonna have to still keep giving him games. And yeah, if he keeps struggling the way he is right now, these next 3-4 starts or so, then you're gonna have the conversation of trying to bring up Rittich and maybe putting Copley in waivers. But I don't think we're at that point yet. I still want to see some more games out of Copley, see if there is something that he can fix out of his game. But I mean, I am worried about Talbot's the amount of games he's playing.
I am more worried about the amount of games Talbot is playing than I am about Copley's play. Copley needs to play. It's got to be better. I don't think he's going to be great. I think he's an 897 to a 904 save percentage type of goalie is what he is. But if he can deliver that as a backup or a 1B, then that's, for now, for what the Kings are operating with, that's okay. He's got to find that. I do think it's too early. because if you send him down and then Rittich comes up again, there's this assumption that Rittich is going to be better. I don't know why that's an assumption, but that's what it is. I think the chances of Rittich coming in and, putting up a 900 save percentage over the next 10 games is just as good, maybe even a little worse than Copley putting up a 900 save percentage over the next 10 games. What's happened already doesn't really matter. I think that Copley, he'll be better. I don't know. He's not going to be great, but I think he'll be better. But I agree, Russ. He's got to get in because you cannot ride Copley too hard. Talbot too hard. I imagine he's going to play probably 2 of the next 3, which is fine because they've had days off and they're going to have more days off after this. After that, as you mentioned, they've got kind of a wonky schedule here. So it kind of works out in the Kings' favor to be able to play Talbot that steady 2 out of 3. I think I'd be comfortable playing. I don't think it matters who he plays against. Like, you got the Eastern Conference team in Florida. That can make a lot of sense playing against an Eastern team. It's not a team that you're worried about points-wise. And then you've got the 2 Western teams with obviously Florida's the best of that bunch, though. So I understand that logic. So I don't really care. When I look at these next 3 games, it doesn't matter to me. None of them are division opponents. It doesn't matter to me which goalie plays which. But Copley needs to play one of these next 3 games. They got to figure him out. He's got to figure it out.
Would that be the secret to you, though, Joe? It's like if they're playing division opponents, you want Talbot in net right now, and if they're not playing division opponents, you kind of like let him try to get his wings. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, I think so. Like division, or again, I mentioned Florida being an Eastern team, so you're not really worried about giving away points. And I think the one thing, Copley, I think he gets points in almost all of his games. Has he lost in regulation? Yeah,
we got pulled in that Arizona game.
Oh, that's right. That one counts. Sure. Then but yeah, like it's kind of weird. It's been kind of odd, but yeah, I think that's kind of how I would operate. Randon is kind of that way. When possible, when doable.
The Kings play that back-to-back Black Friday, I believe, in Anaheim, and then the next night they're at home, Montreal. I would love to see Copley against Gibson in Anaheim. Give me a rematch. Something unlocks out of Phoenix. Maybe that Rise of the Phoenix comes out again.
That is the exact opposite of what Randon just asked me. I would play Talbot against an opponent, and I would play.
No, but come on, it's the Anaheim Ducks. They just got shelled for 8 by Avalanche today. Like, come on. Like,
it is the Avalanche.
Oh, he's just hoping for a Copley Gibson fight.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. I will say I absolutely loved what McClellan said about Copley, asking when he was asked about his confidence in him. It's like it's been 6-7 periods of him in the NHL this season. Like, we're just gonna all of a sudden lose confidence in him. Like, no, that's what players want to play for coaches like that. That's not going to just throw you under the bus or maybe even be critical of you just because you've had bad games. Copley knows he had bad games. It's not a secret to anybody. He's probably thinking like, sure, I should have had those wraparounds to end the game, or even the overtime wraparound, or even the shorthanded goal. Like, he knows. It's not a secret. But if you don't have that confidence from that coach, then your confidence is going to get shaken up a little bit too. So let's just see what we get out of Copley a little bit more. We'll go from there. We're seeing Copley maybe do a little bit too much. Like, we don't need you to do too much. Just stay in your net, make the saves you're supposed to, and then you'll win games. And some of those plays we saw, especially in that Pittsburgh game, especially that first goal where that Sidney Crosby wraparound. If you look at it, that play right before there was an icing. That fourth line, I believe, was the fourth line for the Kings, was on the ice. They were tired for like a full minute.
Great job by Mike Sullivan.
He reached out and tried to get a stoppage and missed the puck. Sidney Crosby was wide open for the wraparound. Copley doesn't need to be doing stuff like that. Just stay in your net, let your guys play good defense, and make the saves you need to make, and you'll win games.
I go back to what we said with LaFerriere. Like, he's on the roster. He made the team. LaFerriere has started great. Now he's had a rough stretch. People want to send him down. Don't get it. You want your coach to say, no, he's here. He needs to work himself out of this now. We're going to give him the leash to work himself out of this. It's the same thing with Copley. There's no need. It's not like you have Dave Rittich in the AHL. It's not as if there's like it's not even if like the Flames who have the AHL goalie of the year, top prospect. Well, if you had that in the AHL, okay, maybe I'm a little more willing. It's Dave Rittich, guys. So no, I think you have to let Copley figure this out. And if he doesn't, then again, you have a GM who's clearly shown he ain't afraid to make a move in net if he needs to, but it's too early to make that move, in my opinion. We're not even to, as they say on all the other Canadian podcasts, American Thanksgiving yet. So like, it's too early. It's too early. I haven't played 20 games yet.
Something to think about. You said that if RV doesn't come back, the LTIR, maybe that goalie comes at the deadline if Copley doesn't figure it out. And that'll be something to think about when it comes to February. We running here almost to 2 hours here in the next 20 minutes. I don't want to get that far. I just want to hit this real quick. You mentioned it, and I want to give some pubs to some podcasts. PDO podcast, Nathan Gav from Sportsnet both did documents on or podcasts on Quentin Byfield. I know all of us Kings fans are saying that, hey, we don't get enough publicity out here. Well, your boy, the number 2 overall pick, got some for that. So go ahead and listen to those. I'm about a quarter of the way through both of those, so we've got to try to hammer those down and see why Quentin Byfield's playing so good. If you guys were to put a reason why he's playing so good this year, what would you guys say in a quick answer?
I think a lot of it has to do with the game is slowed down in front of him, and that's probably not the most analyst-driven answer, but it just seems like he's just making plays that we probably didn't see a lot from him when he first came into the league. Maybe it was just play was too fast and we just couldn't. Maybe the decision-making wasn't there. But some of these little passes and stuff he's making, and also it's just he's just getting points for the good play he's getting too. This is a lot of the same play that we saw from Byfield toward the end of the season last year. It's just now the production's coming along from it. But there's also a lot more. I mean, in terms of his skating ability, just looks incredible in terms of like not even just straight line speed, but just that agility. It's just like you have to like pinch yourself and remind yourself, this guy's 6'5", 215, 20 pounds. It's just unheard of to see a player of that size be able to stick handle in such a phone booth, in a small phone booth, and then be able to spin and skate himself out of situations. It's just incredible. Like, we're witnessing a player that the NHL really hasn't seen before. And if he can grow up to that potential that we all envision him to be, I mean, you're talking about easily 100-point per game player, or per game, 100-point per season player coming up into the NHL. So I'm really excited. I think we're starting to see. It's just now in my head starting to wonder, when does that contract come in? That'll be the next question mark as we get closer here to December and January.
Yeah, I mean, what you're seeing, and I think part of it's the game slowing down, Russ. I think that is a huge part of this. We've talked about that a lot, and I think he's because of that game slowing down, I think he's gaining more confidence. He's being much more assertive. When I look at his shot attempts, last year he had 11 shot attempts per 60. This year, 16.7 shot attempts per 60. That's a 5.7 increase, biggest on the team so far. Shot assists last year. This is my biggest gripe with him last season, and even early this season. Like, I want to see more about him making plays. Like, yes, he's involved in the plays, winning puck battles. Like, he's in the forecheck. Like, he's there. Like, he's helping to drive the play. But I want to see a little bit more in terms of a playmaker. That's what we're seeing. Last year, 9.7 shot assists per 60. This year, 13.5 shot assists per 60. One of the tops in the team. He's seeing some of the biggest increases from last year in shot contributions. He is involved. He's playing with confidence. He's being more assertive, and it's all starting to come together. And with all that more contributions and shot contributions and everything, the production's coming along with it. So it's been great to see.
I think one part of his game that's the biggest note that's popping out to me more than any is his forechecking capability. Because now that we're seeing a player who's confident, who's assertive, he sees a loose puck and he's just straight hunting for it. And a lot of people are maybe wondering and hoping that he'd throw his body and use his weight a little bit more. No, let him use that reach he has with that long stick. And if he gets that first touch as a forechecker and disrupts play, then all of a sudden you have Andrzej Kopitar coming down there, just going down there, protecting the puck and making plays happen and getting the puck over to Adrian Kempe. That's the big part of an improvement in Quentin Byfield's game that I'm seeing. I mean, and that's just unlocking a new part in terms of his overall playmaking ability once the puck gets in the offensive zone.
Yep.
The thing I'm seeing much, and it was kind of eloquently put in the PDO podcast, the first part of it, was his play along the boards has greatly improved. And that's a big part of the game for LA. And what we were noticing a lot of the times last year is he would get one touch and pushed off the puck, or get one touch and not be able to make a play, or make a play to not the right person. And so now I feel like he looks way more comfortable on the boards, almost like he's in the Matrix. He's just like in slow motion, dodging, looking, and he knows exactly where to go with it. I think that's been a big part to the game. The comfortability, according to the podcast, has been through his feet, but I think it's been through his vision a little bit, knowing where people are at, being more accustomed to the NHL game and where Kopitar and Kempe need him to be, and allowing him to be more comfortable on the boards. And we're really seeing that first line really gel and kind of being that puzzle piece that each other needs. That speed has always been there. He's using it more comfortably. I think he's got a better first step this season. He's put on weight every single year, and I think it's just good weight, strong weight within the legs for that size. So congrats to him. I'm glad he's getting national recognition. Lafreniere is starting to turn it on. Obviously, Stützle has had an 80-point season. That 1-2-3 might not be looking too bad, just like the 1-2-3 this year. Bedard 8 goals, Leo Carlsson with a hat trick. So it's got some good young talent coming in the league, and it's good. It's good to see.
I love Leo Carlsson.
This rookie class is looking incredible.
Yeah,
in terms
he's going to be one of my favorite players. Leo, I can see it already.
I mean, the thing is too is that he's not even the best rookie on the team. I mean, Turcotte is the best rookie on that team right now. It's insane the way that kid's playing.
I love that kid too. Zellweger's not even up. Guys, the Ducks are coming. The Ducks are coming. Don't look at the score today, but the Ducks are coming.
Lead coming in here. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks again for Kyle coming on here and talking about that rain. Appreciate you guys in the chat.
I love the chat real quick, just kind of bringing up the scores.
I said don't check the score.
Yeah. Gotta listen here, people. Gotta listen. So yeah, thank you guys for coming in. Please hit that like. I know we say it all, and every content creator says it, but it really launches and the algorithms up the numbers there. So please hit that like button. Leave a couple more comments in there. Share it to your family and friends. We really appreciate all your support. We got some stuff coming down the line, so keep an ear to the grindstone for some updates coming next week. And then obviously we got the holidays in there, so we'll see maybe if we're going to go Tuesday or Wednesday. We still haven't really worked that out. But thank you guys for coming in. Always hockeyroyalty.com. Please follow all of us on Twitter. They've been scrolling along the bottom of the video here for a full hour. So appreciate all of that. And as always on this podcast, go Kings go.